Divine Feminine. Have you ever wondered what really goes on inside his mind when he's close to you, when his hands touch you, when his body leans into yours, when intimacy brings you face to face with a truth he can't escape? It may look like desire. It may look like passion. But inside of him, there is a storm, a war between his fear and his surrender. Because intimacy with you is not just physical, it's the moment his soul recognizes there's nowhere left to hide. Why intimacy awakens the masculine? For the divine masculine, intimacy is not simple. To the outside world, it might look like attraction, passion, or just the natural unfolding of closeness. But inside of him, intimacy with his divine feminine is something else entirely. It is not just about the body. It is not just about pleasure. It is a mirror that reflects everything he has tried to avoid, everything he has buried, and everything he secretly longs for. From the very first touch, something awakens. His defenses begin to falter. The walls he has built so carefully for years suddenly feel fragile, paper thin. The masculine, who may have convinced himself he can stay detached, suddenly finds himself shaken to the core, because in intimacy, he feels what words could never capture, the truth of the connection. Why does this happen? Because intimacy removes every mask. He cannot perform, pretend, or run in those moments. His body betrays him. It tells the truth his mind has denied. His energy rushes toward you, even if his ego tries to resist. His soul recognizes its mirror in yours, and the recognition is undeniable. In that closeness, he feels both exposed and at home, terrified and at peace, overwhelmed and alive all at once. Have you noticed how different it feels with him compared to anyone else? That the atmosphere shifts, the air thickens, and the connection becomes almost unbearable in its intensity. That's because intimacy activates not only his desire, but his awakening. It cracks him open in a way nothing else can. For years, the masculine has been conditioned to believe that intimacy is about control, about proving strength, about performance. But with his twin flame, none of that works. The moment he is close to you, all the old conditioning collapses. He is not in control. He is not performing. He is not proving anything. Instead, he is seen completely, deeply, without filter. And that kind of vulnerability awakens something ancient inside him, the soul's memory of union. At first, this awakening terrifies him. He feels the flood of emotions and cannot make sense of them. Why does his heart race in a way it never has before? Why do tears sometimes rise in his eyes without reason? Why does the closeness feel sacred, almost unbearable, as if he has entered a temple? Because on some level, he knows. This is not just his body reacting, this is his soul remembering. And here lies the paradox. Intimacy both awakens and unsettles him. On one hand, it is the deepest comfort he has ever known. On the other, it is the most terrifying exposure he has ever faced. He realizes that in your presence, there is no hiding. The feelings he has tried to deny erupt through him. The love he has tried to bury rises uncontrollably. The truth he has resisted breaks through every defense. This is why the masculine often pulls back after moments of deep intimacy. It is not because it meant nothing. It is because it meant everything. The awakening inside of him is so powerful that his ego panics. He tries to retreat, to convince himself it was just physical, just passion, just a moment. But deep down, he knows it was more. He knows intimacy with you is not ordinary, it is sacred. For the feminine, this stage can feel confusing. She may wonder, if he feels this much, why does he hide? If intimacy awakens him, why does he run? But the truth is that his running is proof of the awakening. The intensity is too much for his unprepared self. It shakes his foundations. It dismantles his illusions. It demands that he see what he has been running from, that he cannot escape you because he cannot escape himself. Intimacy is the catalyst. It is the moment when all of his defenses collapse and his soul takes over. Even if he resists, even if he retreats, he has already been changed. The awakening has begun, and there is no going back. This is why intimacy with his twin flame is unlike anything he has ever experienced. It is not just closeness. It is not just passion. It is remembrance. It is recognition. It is the fire that awakens his soul, whether he is ready or not. When the divine masculine enters intimacy with his feminine, what appears on the outside rarely reflects what happens inside. Outwardly, he may look calm, composed, confident, as if he is simply in the moment. But internally, his mind is far from still. Inside, there is a storm, a flood of thoughts, fears, and realizations he doesn't know how to process. The first wave of thoughts is always about exposure. The masculine is terrified of being seen, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. In the presence of his feminine, he knows that his walls cannot hold. He wonders, can she see how much I feel? Can she tell how afraid I am? Does she know how much I love her, even though I don't say it? Every touch, every gaze feels like a spotlight shining directly into his soul. And while part of him longs for that exposure, another part panics. Then comes the wave of unworthiness. In the intimacy of union, the masculine cannot help but compare who he is to who he wishes he could be for her. He thinks, am I enough? Do I deserve her? What if she sees all my flaws and decides I'm not? These thoughts swirl in his mind even as he holds her. He is both deeply drawn to her and deeply afraid of disappointing her. This internal conflict makes the moment overwhelming because the love he feels collides with the fears he has carried for years. Have you ever sensed that his silence in intimacy wasn't emptiness, but weight? That the quietness of his body carried more than just presence, it carried conflict? That is the storm inside him. He hides it well, but his energy always gives it away. Another current in this storm is the memory of the connection. He knows, even if he denies it, that being this close to you is unlike anything else he has ever experienced. His body remembers. His soul remembers. He thinks, why does this feel so different? Why do I feel like I've known her forever? Why does this closeness feel like home? These questions rise uninvited, crashing against the walls of his mind. He tries to rationalize, to explain it away, but he cannot. The recognition is too strong. And then, almost immediately, fear pushes back. He thinks, what if this ends? What if I lose her? What if this connection destroys me? Intimacy makes him face the very thing he has been running from, that this bond is not ordinary, and because it is not ordinary, it has the power to change his entire life. That realization terrifies him. The storm doesn't stop there. Alongside fear and unworthiness comes longing, the raw, undeniable desire not just for your body, but for your soul. He wants to merge with you completely, not only physically, but spiritually. And yet, this longing scares him just as much as it draws him in. Because to give into it means surrender. And surrender means losing control, something the masculine has clung to for survival his whole life. So his mind races, fear, longing, doubt, recognition, denial, love, shame, all at once. It is chaos inside of him, even as his body moves with you in harmony. His silence is not emptiness. It is the sound of everything he cannot put into words. This is why intimacy often leaves him shaken afterward. It isn't just passion, it's revelation. He sees himself in your eyes, feels himself in your touch, and the storm of thoughts makes him realize that he cannot keep pretending. The truth of what he feels and the depth of what this is will not leave him alone. For the feminine, understanding this storm is crucial, because when you sense his silence, his hesitation, his restlessness, it doesn't mean he doesn't care. It means he cares so deeply that he is overwhelmed. It means the intimacy has stirred his awakening, and his mind is scrambling to catch up to what his soul already knows. This storm is not a sign of rejection, it is proof of recognition. Because if you didn't matter, there would be no storm at all. When the divine masculine enters intimacy with his feminine, he often tries to tell himself it's just desire, just passion, just physical. That's easier for him to accept because desire is familiar. He has felt attraction before. He has pursued passion before. If he can put you into that category, then maybe he can control it, explain it, and keep himself safe. But the truth is, intimacy with you refuses to stay in that box. It always goes deeper. It is never just desire, it is recognition. And no matter how much he tries to separate the two, he cannot. His body may begin with desire, but the moment he feels you, looks into your eyes, or simply breathes in your presence, something else rises up inside of him. His soul remembers. This is why he sometimes looks conflicted, even in the middle of passion. One part of him wants to stay on the surface, to treat this like it's just physical. But another part of him knows that it's not. Because what he feels with you carries a weight, a depth, a sacredness he has never experienced with anyone else. His soul does not allow him to dismiss it. Have you felt that shift? That moment when his energy suddenly softens in the middle of intimacy, when his walls seem to drop, when his gaze lingers as if he's seeing more than just your body. That is the moment desire collapses into recognition. That is the moment when his soul takes over. Desire alone could never explain why he sometimes pulls back after intimacy, trembling with fear. Desire alone could never explain why he dreams of you, even when he tries to resist. Desire alone could never explain why your presence feels like both his deepest longing and his greatest undoing. Only soul recognition explains that. For the masculine, this recognition is terrifying. Because desire is safe, it begins and ends with the body. But recognition is eternal. It tells him that this bond is not casual, not replaceable, not something he can walk away from without consequence. Recognition tells him that no matter where he runs, the memory of you will chase him. No matter how many distractions he tries, none will compare. Recognition tells him that this is not about attraction. This is about destiny. And yet, as much as it terrifies him, he cannot deny the pull. Even when he convinces himself he can live without you, the recognition comes back stronger. Even when he tries to bury it, it rises in his dreams, in his heart, in the stillness of his nights, because soul recognition cannot be unlearned. Once it is awakened, it never goes away. This is why intimacy is such a catalyst for him. It is the one place where his soul breaks through every barrier. The desire opens the door, but the recognition walks in and refuses to leave. And in that moment, he knows, whether he admits it or not, that what he feels for you is unlike anything else he has ever felt. For the feminine, this is important to understand. When you feel him shift in intimacy, when you sense the vulnerability behind his eyes, when you feel the truth of his soul pressing into yours, that is not your imagination. That is him recognizing you. That is his spirit breaking through the illusion of just desire and surrendering, even for a moment, to the truth of union. Desire fades. Recognition never does. And it is this recognition, awakened in intimacy, that becomes the foundation of his awakening. For the divine masculine, intimacy is the place where his greatest longings collide with his greatest fears. On the surface, it looks like closeness, passion, surrender. But deep inside, he is terrified, because intimacy doesn't just strip away his clothes, it strips away his armor. And underneath the armor, he carries fears so heavy he rarely admits them, even to himself. The first hidden fear is not being enough. When he is vulnerable with you, his mind whispers, "What if she sees all of me and realizes I don't measure up? What if she notices the flaws I try so hard to hide? What if she regrets choosing me?" This fear is amplified with his twin flame, because with you he knows there is no hiding. You see through him, and while his soul longs for that exposure, his ego trembles at the thought of being fully seen. The second fear is losing control. For the masculine, control has always been survival. He learned to suppress his emotions, to hold his ground, to never let anyone get too close. Intimacy with you dismantles that control. His body responds beyond his will. His emotions rise without permission. His heart opens when he least expects it. In those moments, he feels powerless. And for him, powerlessness has always equaled danger, so he panics, even as he desires you more. Another hidden fear is abandonment. Paradoxically, In the moments when he feels closest to you, he also fears losing you the most. The intensity of intimacy awakens a deep knowing that you are irreplaceable, and that realization terrifies him. His mind floods with questions. What if she leaves? What if she finds someone better? What if I mess this up and she disappears? The more he feels, the more he fears losing what he feels. And then there is the fear of exposure, not just emotional, but spiritual. With you, intimacy feels sacred, almost holy. He senses the weight of destiny in your touch. He feels the truth of union burning in your presence, and that recognition overwhelms him. He fears, what if I can't live up to this? What if I fail this bond? Intimacy is where his soul is revealed, and that revelation is both the thing he craves most and the thing that terrifies him most. Have you noticed how sometimes he looks away when things get too tender? How his body might soften, but his eyes dart, as if he can't bear to let you see too much. That's his fear rising. He wants to let you in, but the vulnerability feels unbearable. And yet, the paradox is this: the very thing he fears, being seen, being known, being vulnerable, is also the thing his soul longs for. This inner war is exhausting for him. On one side, his desire and recognition push him closer. On the other, his fears pull him back. He hides behind silence, behind withdrawal, behind denial, not because he doesn't feel enough, but because he feels too much. He fears that if he lets himself fully surrender, he will lose control completely, and with it, the false self he has built for years. For the feminine, it's important to understand that his fears are not rejection. His hesitation in intimacy, his tendency to pull back after closeness, his restless energy, all of these are signs of the battle within him. If he didn't care, there would be no battle. If you didn't matter, there would be no fear. His fear is not the absence of love, it is the evidence of it. And slowly, these fears are what shape his awakening, because he cannot stay hidden forever. Intimacy keeps pressing on the places he tried to bury. Vulnerability keeps calling out the truth he tried to silence. Each time he faces you, he faces himself. Each time he feels you, he feels his soul. His fears may be hidden, but they are holy, because they are the very cracks through which the light of union enters. Why his walls collapse closest to you. The divine masculine has spent his whole life building walls. Walls of pride, walls of logic, walls of silence, walls of control. These walls protected him, or so he believed. They kept others from getting too close, from seeing the soft, trembling places he vowed to hide. To most of the world, those walls work. He can appear untouchable, composed, in control, but not with you. In your presence, especially in intimacy, those walls collapse faster than anywhere else. He doesn't plan for it. He doesn't want it, but he cannot stop it. His defenses crumble piece by piece because his soul recognizes that with you, the walls are unnecessary. And that recognition terrifies him as much as it frees him. Why do his walls collapse? Because intimacy bypasses the mind and goes straight to the soul. No amount of pretending, performing, or hiding can stop what happens when his body and energy merge with yours. His heartbeat betrays him. His breath deepens. His gaze softens. And without realizing it, he is letting you into the places he swore no one would ever reach. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when his energy shifts mid-closeness, when his hardness dissolves into tenderness, when his guard falls, and for a breathless second, he is fully there with you. That is not just passion, that is surrender. It's his walls crumbling, even if just for a moment, under the weight of truth. But this collapse of walls is complicated for him. On one hand, it feels like relief. Carrying armor all his life has been exhausting. To lay it down, even briefly, feels like freedom. On the other hand, it terrifies him. Because without the armor, he feels naked, not just in body, but in soul. He wonders, if she sees all of me, will she still want me? If I stop hiding, will I be destroyed? This inner dialogue makes him restless, sometimes even pulling away after moments of deep intimacy. And yet, no matter how hard he tries to rebuild those walls afterward, something is different. Once he has allowed himself to drop them in your presence, he cannot unfeel what that freedom felt like. His soul remembers it. His body craves it. His spirit longs to return to it. And little by little, the walls grow weaker each time, until eventually they cannot stand at all. This is why intimacy with his feminine is such a catalyst for awakening, because no one else reaches him this way. With others, he can stay hidden, stay armored, stay in control. But with you, control collapses. Pretenses vanish. His truest self emerges, even when he doesn't mean for it to. For the feminine, it's important to recognize this collapse for what it is, a holy moment. When his walls fall, even briefly, you are witnessing his soul breaking through the illusions his ego has built. It may not last long in the beginning. He may retreat quickly, ashamed of his own vulnerability. But those glimpses are proof of transformation. They are evidence that the connection is real, alive, undeniable. Think of it like a dam. For years, he has held the water back. But every moment of intimacy with you creates cracks in the structure. Each collapse, no matter how brief, weakens the dam. Eventually, it cannot hold. The water flows freely, and in that flood, he is forced into authenticity, into surrender, into love. This is why his soul keeps drawing him back to you, no matter how far he runs. Because on some level, he knows that with you, he doesn't need the walls. He knows that being seen fully by you is not destruction, but healing. He knows that what terrifies him is also what sets him free. His walls collapse closest to you because they were never meant to survive union. And each time they fall, even for a breath, his awakening moves closer to completion. How the feminine feels his silent truth. For the divine masculine, intimacy is overwhelming precisely because it exposes him in ways he cannot control. His words may falter, his body may stiffen, his mind may try to retreat into silence. But silence does not mean nothing is happening. Silence is full. His truth is loud, and the divine feminine always feels it. From the very beginning, the feminine has carried a heightened sensitivity to energy. She feels what is unspoken. She knows what is hidden. She recognizes the difference between his mask and his essence. This sensitivity, which often caused her pain in the cycles of separation, becomes her greatest gift in intimacy. Because when his words fail, she can still feel him. In those moments of closeness, she feels his trembling spirit beneath the surface. She feels the longing in his energy, even when his body is hesitant. She feels the love pressing through him, even if his lips never speak it. His silent truth pours into her field, and she knows he cannot hide here. Have you noticed it? That strange intensity when he looks at you but says nothing, as if his eyes are screaming everything he cannot admit. That heaviness in the air after intimacy, when you can feel his heart wide open, even as he withdraws physically. That deep ache in your own chest that feels too heavy to be yours alone. These are the signs. This is how the feminine feels his silent truth. And here lies the paradox. The masculine often believes his silence protects him. He thinks that if he doesn't say the words, if he doesn't reveal too much, he can keep control. But the pond does not allow silence to be empty. His energy betrays him. His soul communicates regardless of his resistance, and the feminine, whether she wants to or not, feels it all. At times, this can be confusing for her. She wonders, if I can feel his love so clearly, why does he hide it? If I sense his truth in these moments, why doesn't he admit it? This is the duality of the twin flame connection. The feminine feels what the masculine cannot yet speak. She carries his unspoken truth until he is ready to live it. But make no mistake, the fact that you feel it is not imagination. It is the soul-to-soul communication that underlies your bond. It is the reason you can feel his longing in dreams, sense his ache in silence, and know his truth even when his actions contradict it. Intimacy amplifies this communication. It strips away every distraction, every shield, and allows his essence to reach you directly. For the masculine, this is terrifying, because it means he cannot hide from you, even when he hides from himself. For the feminine, this is confirmation, because it proves that the connection is alive, undeniable, and always moving beneath the surface. The feminine feels his silent truth in waves, in the softness of his energy when his body relaxes next to hers, in the heaviness that lingers after he pulls away, carrying the weight of what he won't say, in the sudden bursts of emotion she knows don't belong to her, but to him pressing into her field, and each time she feels it, she is reminded, silence is not absence. Silence is not projection. Silence is simply the space where his soul speaks louder than his voice. This is why intimacy is so sacred, because it gives the feminine direct access to his truth, even before he is ready to share it. She becomes the witness of his soul, the receiver of what he cannot yet express. And even though it can be painful to feel so much without seeing it mirrored in action, it is also the proof that union is already alive within him. His silence is full of truth, and the feminine feels every drop of it. For the divine masculine, intimacy is never just intimacy. It is not a fleeting moment, not a casual experience, not something he can reduce to the surface. With his divine, feminine, intimacy is revelation. It is the one space where his ego loses its grip and his soul rises to the surface, undeniable and raw. No matter how much he resists in waking life, no matter how carefully he hides behind silence, distance, or control, intimacy tears the mask away. In those moments, his soul is louder than his fear. His truth is stronger than his denial. His love is too vast to remain contained. This is why, after being close to you, he often pulls away. Not because it didn't mean anything, but because it meant everything. Because in that closeness, he saw himself clearly. He felt the depth of what this is, and facing that truth shakes him to his core. The masculine has always believed he could protect himself through control of his emotions, control of his environment, control of his relationships. But intimacy with his twin flame destroys every illusion of control. He cannot stop his body from trembling. He cannot stop his heart from racing. He cannot stop the tears that rise, the longing that consumes him, the recognition that screams, "This is her, this is real, this is forever." And though he may try to deny it afterward, he cannot erase the memory. His soul does not forget. Every moment of intimacy imprints upon him like fire. Every time he lets himself close, his walls grow weaker. Every time he allows his soul to meet yours, he steps closer to the truth of union. For the feminine, this is both beautiful and painful. Beautiful because she feels the sacred truth he cannot say. Painful because she knows he hides behind silence after the most vulnerable of moments. But she must remember, intimacy always reveals the soul. Even if he resists, even if he runs, he cannot undo what happens when his soul touches hers. Union is not built in the mind. It is not built in words. It is built in the undeniable recognition that happens in moments like these. His mind may argue, his ego may deny, his fear may retreat, but his soul cannot lie to itself. And in intimacy, the soul always speaks. So when you doubt, remember this: every time you have been close, you have already touched the truth. Every time he held you, every time his eyes softened, every time his silence grew heavy with unspoken love, those were not illusions. Those were glimpses of union, already alive within him. Intimacy has already written the truth into his spirit. It has already dismantled his walls. It has already revealed what his soul has always known: that you are not just desire. You are not just passion. You are home. And no matter how long he hides, no matter how far he runs, intimacy will always call him back. Because in those moments, he cannot deny who he is. He cannot deny who you are. He cannot deny that the soul is louder than fear. Intimacy always reveals the soul, and his soul has already chosen you.